Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show, a program exclusively designed to promote reproductive health awareness and discuss fertility preservation options. Here is your host, the Harvard-educated fertility specialist, Dr. Aimee.
She's known as the Egg Whisperer. Fertility expert Dr. Aimee Vazadeh.
And you have yet another success story
Just launched by an East Bay fertility doctor.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show. And I'm so excited to have Michael on with us today. Hi, Michael. Thanks for joining us.
You are more than welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. I love watching you and your family on Instagram. You have such a gorgeous family.
Oh, you're too kind. It's been chaos today, but they're both in bed, so it's fine.
The title of today's show is LGBTQ plus Parenthood, Surrogacy, and Education with Michael Johnson Ellis of TwoDadsUK. And let me just tell you guys a little bit about Michael. Michael and his husband, Wes, make up TwoDadsUK. They're proud fathers to Tallulah and Duke, born via surrogacy. They're on a mission to help normalize same-sex families in the UK. And you guys are doing a great job of it. I mean, I know that, we're so lucky here in the Bay Area, especially not to have to deal with a lot of the shame and taboo and stigmas that go along with, same-sex family building, and you are just doing an incredible job by sharing your story and doing everything you're doing. So thank you for that. You guys are very active in surrogacy law reform and have already influenced major change to UK healthcare guidance when it comes to the treatment of surrogates and intended parents. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your family.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you, first of all. I'm Michael, and I've been married to Wes since 2014. We met in 2012. And when we met, Wes has a daughter from a previous straight relationship, and I knew that he had kids. So when I met him, I really liked that fact. I desperately wanted to be a dad. So we had that conversation quite early on about wanting kids. And we just have had a great time ever since. Surrogacy for us was always the first option of how we were to build our family. So we did nearly 3 years worth of research looking into all of the various options, the various countries and the various pathways that would work for us. We decided on UK Surrogacy, which is altruistic. So some similarities to Canada. And in doing that, we had to navigate our way through, just treacle, literally. And we wanted to ensure that by telling our story again would assist more people that would want to follow. So that's what we did. We created TwoDadsUK.
And then as far as the response that you've gotten from TwoDadsUK, what has that been like for you guys?
Yeah, it was crazy. We started off as it was just an Instagram account. It was purely a Facebook account to destigmatize surrogacy and to kind of bring it front and center, so people would talk about it, but so people would also see our family and get people talking more about same-sex families. And right from the beginning, it just exploded in the sense that the attention was mixed to begin with, and we then were approached to do a number of sort of collaborations, TV documentaries, some commercials, and then as when we had our family and our fertility journey was documented, when I'm sure we'll come on to it, we had quite a mixed experience, and it was because of that we decided to do something with the platform that we had and to, I guess, do a bit of good by using our following and the Instagram and the Facebook platform.
Right. And you're doing even more now. Tell us about the agency that you guys have started.
We like a challenge. So we've been working on setting up this particular organization for nearly 3 years, and it launches in the next 2 weeks. So it's been a real experience. It's called My Surrogacy Journey. It's a non-profit because it has to be that way in the UK, but also that fits well in with the values that we wanted to do anyway. But we are providing full emotional, professional and practical support for a surrogacy journey for both LGBTQ and heterosexual people that are on a surrogacy journey, both in the UK, in the US, or in Canada. And we're working with agencies and clinics and egg banks and surrogacy organizations to provide a true concierge service. So, emotional support is super, super important. So it's all of the things that I wish we would have had when we went on our journey. We've created this benefits package through a membership that people can purchase on their journey.
And then what is the current state of surrogacy in the UK? Is it still only compassion? I mean, you touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, so as you know, and as you may have been explained, or as I touched on, surrogacy in the UK is perfectly legal. It's altruistic. So what that means is no organisation can profit from surrogacy. You can't advertise for a surrogate in the UK. So you can either, if you want to access surrogacy, you either work with one of the non-profit organisations, or you do an independent journey. So you will find your own surrogate, you will choose your own clinic, your donor. You'll choose whether you want to do traditional surrogacy or gestational surrogacy. So that's the options that you have, and the law is massively inadequate and out of date. It's the Surrogacy Arrangements Act of 1985 and the HFEA Act of 1990. So it's been updated over time, but it's only as recently as 2010 when sort of gay people could access surrogacy through applying for the parental order. And the parental order is the biggest issue in the current legislation. And that essentially, when your child is born to a surrogate, the surrogate is classed as the legal mother until you have your parental order granted by the court. If you do domestic or UK surrogacy, that takes about 5 months. If you've had international surrogacy, there are some people that can take 12, 18 months. So it's a real issue. But we were involved in some of the reform and the conversations that took place at the House of Parliament, and we were involved in last year's sort of consultations with the law commissioners for England, Wales, and Scotland. And that was an experience because it was an overwhelming response. Was the parental responsibility needs to be from birth. That was overwhelmingly what everybody was wanting, and the thinking process is that will be the case. But this isn't. That consultation period ended in October last year. As we know, the world has gone crazy. That year before, and the chance of this coming in now as new legislation is probably going to be 2024, 2025. So there's still a way to go. Wow,
that's true. But you've really helped quite a bit. I mean, I just see the conversations you're having. They're changing the hearts and minds of so many people in your community and just making it easier for the LGBTQ community to start talking freely about having families.
Absolutely, and it's surprising how many people just didn't even know how accessible it was, or the misconception that it was illegal, or that the only options were to go to the US or go to other countries where there was less safety or less regulation. And we're all about trying to provide a safer pathway to parenthood. Option and choice is that's the intended parent's decision. We can talk about surrogacy and talk about what those options look like, but ultimately it's always their decision.
Right. How is it handled when it comes to delivery, and who's in the delivery room?
Obviously, pre-COVID, it depends where you give birth in terms of the hospital. So in the UK, we have it's called the NHS. It's a publicly funded health service. It's good. Obviously, healthcare is free. But depending which hospital you give birth at will depend on what their policy is. So when we had Tallulah, when we had our first appointment for our 12-week scan, the mood very, very quickly changed from us being really excited to being really flat, because we were just told what we couldn't do, and the hospital were working to an outdated policy. They were referring back to this law, which was just outdated and not really fit for modern family building. And we were just being told, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. You won't see your baby being born. You know, the baby will have to be given to you off premises on a car park, not on hospital property. And it was just like, no, this isn't fair. So we challenged it, and we changed our consultant, and we then had the most unbelievable inclusive journey, and we didn't want anything different. You know, we just wanted that image of car seats, holding hands, balloons, you know, and we got that. And more importantly, we got to see the birth of Tallulah, and our surrogate had a planned C-section. And in the UK, it's one person only in theatre, and that was always going to be our surrogate's husband. And literally 3 minutes before Tallulah was born, they rushed into our side room, and he rushed in, and there was no baby, and we're like, is everything okay? And he's like, get some scrubs on, you can come and see your child being born. So they changed it just at the last minute, because they were like, do you know what, these men need to see their child being born. They're not birth partners, these are parents. And we were the first surrogacy journey that this hospital had. So we saw Tallulah being born, and they rewrote their policy because of our experience. And because they rewrote it, 30 other NHS trusts, hospitals, copied the policy and rolled it out across the UK. So now more and more intended parents are at the birth, even if it's an elective C-section now, where for the last however many years, it was always only one person. So that was positive.
Wow. So you mentioned finding the right fit. How did you approach that? So if someone's listening and they're in that situation, because it still might happen, how would you recommend they do that?
We would, it's part of the work that we do every single day. You know, there's not a rest for us. We're doing this constantly, you know, helping and making sure people's journeys are safe. And more than safe, it's more about that they're equal, that they are still visible parents here. They are not birth partners. This is a real special time for them. And I would always advise everyone to request the surrogacy policy of that particular NHS trust. If that policy hasn't been updated since October 2018, then the chances are that policy won't be reflecting the government guidance that came out in October, November 2018, which allows you to be present, which allows you to not have your child handed to you on a car park, which treats you as a parent and not as a safeguarding risk.
So what makes surrogacy different as a same-sex couple than, let's say, a heterosexual couple?
You really notice being a same-sex couple more when you have children. You know, maternity services generally aren't built for our type of family. And you know, just when we were going for scans, we always wanted Caroline's husband with her. So we would all crowd into the same room, and you could see people thinking, there are 3 men with that woman. What is going on? And we would get funny looks, and we would love it because you can ham it up a little bit. But the general process and system, and I think surrogacy is, whilst people have been going through surrogacy since 1985 in the UK, it's more and more common now. So there's approximately between 400 and 500 children a year being born in the UK through surrogacy, and it's growing. So for a lot of people that meet you, it's the first they know about surrogacy. So, and when you're same sex and you're exploring surrogacy, you emotionally, you're coming at it from a completely different viewpoint than if you're heterosexual and you've been struggling with your fertility. It's more of a celebration for us, but for someone who's heterosexual, it's probably an exhausting, it's a last resort, you know, that a woman is having to give over that last right to carry her child. So they're probably emotionally very, very different. So I think apart from, you know, some of the social stigmas and adjustments there, you know, policy generally is in the UK within the health service is one man, one woman. So therefore, having to challenge that our initial consultation, there were 12 counts of discrimination under the Equality Act. So it was only by correcting that, what else happened just followed nicely.
And you and Wes are focused on 3 areas with your work, and it's social, policy, and education, and that's part of your mission. So what are some of the social pieces that you guys are looking at, and what changes? We talked a little bit about them already, but are there other changes that you would like to also see?
One of the ones that we do is called Dad's Change Too, and this is a social policy. So and we've got a 17-month-old and a 4-year-old. So my 4-year-old obviously isn't in nappies anymore, but Duke still is. And being a dad generally in the UK when you want to change your children is really tricky. It's not like some parts of the US where, particularly where you live, where bathrooms have changing facilities. They just doesn't exist in the UK in male bathrooms. So whether you're a gay dad or a heterosexual dad, trying to change your child, you tend to, you're squatting on the floor, they're lying across your lap, or you have to go into a disabled toilet, and there's someone less able than you that needs that space more than you do. You're changing a diaper or a nappy. You shouldn't need that. So we're working on a non-profit initiative to roll out 120 baby changing stations in each city, which we receive funding, and then we sponsor the changing stations and we put them through. That's one of them. One of the other major pieces is educating healthcare professionals about surrogacy and how to engage with intended parents and surrogates, and the correct use of language when talking about the surrogacy journey. And the big area that's really undereducated is the midwifery community, which is really surprising. So we're working with a number of organisations to roll out training to nurses and to doctors about surrogacy. So they're 2 of the main social and education ones. And then there's a huge project that we're doing with regards to, it's called Positive Surrogacy, and that's changing. We're damned to try and change the legislation to allow HIV positive intended parents to explore surrogacy, because they can't.
And you guys are also working on different policies. And then there's some legal questions about parental leave for parents, and then also the surrogate. So what are you guys working on in those areas?
So from a policy process, the UK is actually ahead of the curve when it comes to parental leave. So when you have a child through surrogacy, the surrogate can take full maternity leave. So depending on their employer, they can take the 6 months statutory, or they can have extended leave through their employer if that is policy. Again, for intended parents, you can both have time off. So I was able to take 9 months off work, and Wes can share your leave. So you're allowed to take 50-50 each. So from the UK point of view, it's really, it's actually quite progressive. So we're quite lucky here from a policy point of view from paternal rights.
And then what can you help educate people about, both in the UK and here in the US? I mean, I think our countries have many of the same misconceptions or lack of knowledge about both surrogacy and LGBTQ plus parenthood.
One of the things that we all could do more on is, family building within LGBTQ is challenging, and we do sometimes have to fit into a heteronormative pathway. But one of the biggest things is, when you are going through surrogacy, there are often 2 people involved, and one of those individuals won't be biologically linked to that particular child, or won't be using their gametes for that particular fertility journey. And what healthcare professionals seem to get wrong is the inclusion of all parties and all parents, and not just referring to the person that's donating their sperm or their eggs. So I think we could, as a community, and I still see it now, I still see, consultations where, if it's heterosexual, then the woman's just spoken to, or if it's in a same-sex situation, one person often gets left out. So I think just being respectful of all people on that particular journey, and the inclusiveness, whether that's LGBTQ or just the non-biological, or the person not having the procedure, is just really important, just to take stock and remember and respect that. And also, just understanding that we've had a bit of a journey to get to where we need to, and this isn't a conveyor belt of treatment. This is a real, I always say there are no unwanted children to anyone that's born through fertility treatments, particularly from LGBTQ communities, because these children are desperately wanted and loved and needed. So the journey can often be super emotional and charged.
And then what other changes do you foresee in the future government in the UK?
Well, the biggest is the law reform, which we hope that comes through in the next few years. I would love there to be a discussion around allowing those with HIV to explore surrogacy, because at the moment you can explore IVF if you're HIV positive and undetectable and on medication, but if you're exploring surrogacy, then you're not allowed because of the donation rules. So I would love to see that change. It's just so unfair, and intended parents are they have to go to the US or to Canada or to Cyprus. They're the places where people tend to go. So I'd love to see that change, and that's something that we're trying to challenge. As for the surrogacy laws, I don't think they're going to be commercial. I think it will stay altruistic. So that's certainly one to watch. But yeah, that's what I would predict.
Yeah, I didn't realize that HIV positive parents couldn't use a surrogate in the UK.
No, you can't. It's shameful, and it's completely discriminatory.
Yeah,
it's just absolutely unfair. So that's the next challenge.
So let's just say you have a room full of IVF doctors. Okay. What would you say to them to help patients be allies in your mission? What would you teach us? What would you want to leave us with?
Rather than, for the month of June or July, you slap a rainbow flag on some part of your branding, rather than, being with us for 1 month of the year and pink washing and rainbow washing your brand. Commit to being inclusive all of the year. And we're not asking for, our own section of your website. Just include us in your website, and just include us in your operation, your clinic, your practice, your education, because we aren't going away, and our family bill, the trend we're seeing, millennials are turning to reproductive medicine more than previous generations. So the LGBTQ community are opting more for reproductive med than the previous. So it's time to wake up and understand that gays have kids too. So just get with us and support us, because we ain't going anywhere.
I love that. Gays have kids too. You're not going anywhere. I really hope you aren't. You're doing amazing. Can you share with us your website names, the where we can find you on Instagram, and your new agency name? Yeah,
I would love to. So TwoDadsUK, you can go to TwoDadsUK.com, and that's TwoDadsUK.com. And we're on Instagram and Facebook, which is TwoDads.U.K. And then my surrogacy journey is mysurrogacyjourney.com, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook with official My Surrogacy Journey.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michael, for coming on with us today. Thank you for everything you're doing to change the world and provide education for parenthood for everybody. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show, a program exclusively designed to promote reproductive health awareness and discuss fertility preservation options. Here is your host, the Harvard-educated fertility specialist, Dr. Aimee.
She's known as the Egg Whisperer. Fertility expert Dr. Aimee,
and you have yet another success story
just launched by an East Bay fertility doctor.